Welcome back to Rowdy Rants. I'm Rowdy. Thank you for coming. I'm going to be doing some talking now about Afghanistan again, some talk about the Taliban and a few other things. Now let me make it clear. I was not in Afghanistan. I've never been there. Not in any kind of capacity. I do have a lot of friends that I served with, and a lot of them have taken an interest in educating me about it. Afghanistan was after my time because I was put out of the service on a retirement disability. There's a few things people need to understand so you get the whole picture of what's happening and what's going on. Afghanistan is a nation pretty much in name only. If you look on a map, you'll find an outline of what is called Afghanistan, but there is no contiguous Afghani people. It's a tribal area. It's a conglomeration of tribes, not even loosely knit. As the Russians could have told anyone, there is no contiguous Afghan culture. There never has been. Enough about that. The Taliban. The Taliban is a militaristic organization based on Sunni Muslim Islam, which if you spent any amount of time in airports in the 80s, you would see Muslims there trying to talk to people, and more often than not they were referred to as double Muslims because they were very, very strict and considered to be many times more severe than a Shiite. That's pretty much the basis for the outgrowth of the Taliban, which popped up after the Russians left. And amusingly enough, and this is actually going to be significant here soon with other things I'm going to be talking about, is Taliban is Pashto for student. Keep that in your head. Taliban is Pashto, which is the language of the region. Although there are many, many dialects, there's no one language. There are many dialects. In Pashto, Taliban means student. Now, the idea that they were going to build an army and a government that would survive without the overlording influence of the United States, it never was a thing. Nobody in the know, besides maybe political hacks, ever believed that it could stand alone, which was proven when the United States actually started physically pulling out of Afghanistan. Now, what can we talk about that happened? As usual, what seems to have bitten the Biden administration and the various and multifarious arms of the Biden administration in the ass was they were too worried about optics. While they were focused on optics, reality came up and kicked them in the ass. Again, where have you heard the terminology about optics before? Pelosi. And what's happening now? You know, the Taliban, they just moved on in, right? Well, you can be pretty sure that any sensitive equipment was removed or destroyed, mostly removed, I'm sure. If they have any equipment for making war, it's going to be just standardized, basic Gumby style equipment. Doesn't mean it's a good thing they got it. That equipment was meant for the Afghan army. People should understand, when you were dealing with Afghans, you were dealing with people who were fundamentally illiterate. And they really weren't that motivated, except by the money that they earned. And once that disappeared, the motivation disappeared, and so did they. So where did, you know, Biden's 300,000 armed, 3,000 strong army go? Well, I'll tell you what, if you start looking around the Taliban, I can say you're going to find a few with short haircuts, at a minimum. Where else would they go? Did they defect to the Taliban? Nope, they were always a member. That's what they were in for, was training and information, and to siphon off equipment for the Taliban. How sure am I of that? I'm not. I have absolutely no proof. Once again, that's opinion of mine. However, I'm sure if enough people were to look and investigate, if it were possible, which I don't think it is, that's what they'd find. I understand that there's up to 8,000 troops at the airport now in Kabul. But one of the bigger problems that they have is a lot of the people that they're there to get out can't get to the airport, because the airport is now surrounded by Taliban. Now, the Taliban wants the American military to leave. Don't get it wrong. But the Taliban is there to stop anybody that they might want later from leaving too. You know, any little tidbit of information that they can extract from somebody is to their benefit. And if people are wholesale getting on planes and leaving, that's a loss. And right now, the Taliban's going to talk real friendly, but they're also telling women to stand to the side. Back again to one of the things I was talking about with the Biden administration, is one of their biggest concerns were optics, how it looks, which is how all of it fell through their fingers. They were so concerned with the way things look that they weren't paying any kind of attention to operational issues. Otherwise, they would have known that there was going to be a collapse of the government. You know, let's face it, the government of Afghanistan pretty much folded up like an origami bird. You know, rolled up like yesterday's newspaper. And the thing about it is Biden, I'm sure they knew to a degree a lot of this could happen and likely would happen, but I believe they wanted to be out before it did, which is why they got in a hurry. And they got caught with the shorts now. Believe me, Biden does not care about anybody in Afghanistan, any allies, nothing. Why? Because this is one huge distraction. One of the first things he ran his mouth about with this issue was that he inherited this plan from Donald Trump. Okay, well, he absolutely destroyed everything else Donald Trump did and had no problem with doing it, most within the first 10 days in office. But this one thing he couldn't change. Bullshit. Bullshit. This is a distraction from what they want to be focused on, which is the infrastructure bill and writing some of the biggest checks America's ever written on nothing. Investing in their equity and their anti-racism and their fight against white supremacy. Yeah. This is a huge distraction. And if you watch now, you go look at your lefty networks like MSNBC and CNN, and wait for the Atlantic to come out with their view on things. What you're going to see is they're going to be twisting it around to Biden being the great leader. When the facts are, Biden's just pissed off because it's inconvenient. Obama himself is reported to have told another Democrat, never underestimate Biden's ability to bungle things up. I don't have any proof of him saying that, but that's what's rumored to have been said. And if present times bears out fact, Biden seems to be following that route. He's pretty good at bungling things up. And all he really wants to get back to doing is to follow through with his infrastructure deal and get some amnesty for these millions of immigrants that are pouring across the southern border. That's all he wants. To make a whole bunch more Biden voters. And potentially a whole bunch more Pelosi and Democrat voters. That's the goal. And to stop the other things that the Republicans are up to. And this is one huge distraction. And it's a problem that they can't control because the media there, well, they're not quite as friendly as the media here in the United States. And the social media, they'll go ahead and ban and block things for them, keep the Democrats looking good, and social media is going to go ahead and filter things. Whereas when it's coming from overseas, people can see it on BBC, they can see it on, well, you can even watch China news and get more truth a lot of the time about what's happening in places. Or at least a version of the truth that reveals a little more information than you already have. Perhaps a little more clarity is offered. You can get news from Al Jazeera, you can get news from India. It's pretty interesting. You see some of the news from India. Look for a commentator there that does a show called The Debate. Yeah, he's got a big mouth and likes to yell a lot, but some of the points he makes are interesting. Now, earlier you heard me say that something you'd want to remember, keep up here in your noggin, is when you say Taliban, that's past two for student, because that's who started the Taliban right after Russia left Afghanistan, was students. Okay? Now, it's just kind of coincidental that Biden's getting his shit kicked all over the place in Afghanistan, or is he, by the Taliban. And you look around here in the United States and you've got over 30 people died last year in riots and protests and events with Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which are both favored by the Biden administration and favored by the Democrat-controlled Congress, with people even claiming that Antifa is a myth. You know, that's one hell of a myth that I've got to keep backpedaling and to keep my back from being held to them so I don't get clocked in the head with a lock. Yeah, that happened. And Antifa is primarily college students, and Black Lives Matter was started with a large number of college students. And Black Lives Matter seems to be sustaining itself within colleges and students. And where do you find woke visions? Is in college with students. So we have the Taliban in Afghanistan. And for how long now have we had the Taliban? American style? I believe that's all I'm going to say. My name's Rowdy. That's my rant. You have a great day.